or looking up at the screen. I know you're paying attention here. But on our agenda, the only thing I've got going on is some more intermediate shape making. Here are the bell schedules. You should have the same A lunch or B lunch. It doesn't change depending on a late start. So here's your bell schedule. We are in here till 11 o'clock this morning, 11:01 technically. So I just got a couple quick things to show you, especially thinking about the direct selection tool to allow you to make some a little bit more intermediate shapes, right? So with your progress thus far, you're going to notice a lot of overlap and not a lot of like direct kind of correlation with the shapes that your animal might have, right? So see, I'm missing out on some of this wing portion right here. If we think about the whole wing as it's folded up like this, bless you, this triangle is not taking up the entirety of the space that I need it to, right? So if I were to grab my polygon tool, you can also click one time and use the scroll wheel to increase or decrease the amount of sides. This was back from the mountain logo, if you remember that. But let's say I want this triangle to fit in a little bit more of a way that is not so off, not so like easily, or not easily adjustable, but like trying to see how this triangle is going to shape out here. It's kind of more like one of these shapes. Okay. You can use your direct selection tool, since all shapes that come out of the shape tool are just paths that connect back on themselves. Remember, anytime you see this square, you have an anchor point that you can adjust, or anytime you see this circle, you have a kind of corner that you can round off like this, almost to a full, triangle, small enough triangle will go all the way to a full circle, but then it kind of stops being a triangle. But anyway, anytime you see these little kind of grab points, you can round off your shape's edges around the corners. But with the direct selection tool, that's the cousin to your regular selection tool, which is also A on your keyboard. You press A and then click on a shape. It looks pretty much the same because it's going to default back to that regular selection tool. But if I press A with that shape still selected, the bounding box goes away. You can see it's really hard to tell because the anchor points are about the same stroke weight as this rounded triangle I just made here. But now I have access to manipulate specific corners by double clicking on them. Because the direct selection tool focuses a lot more on the singular anchors and the singular pieces that you're manipulating. But the trick with the direct selection tool, hi, good morning. Same seats until tomorrow or Wednesday. Or whatever, when you guys are back in. Thank you. The trick with the direct selection tool is you have to double click on the thing that you're trying to manipulate. So I have to double click on this corner if I want to just move this one. Or on these anchor points, since this has become a rounded curve, it's added 2 anchor points. Remember, think back, these are mathematical functions. So we have a coordinate here and a coordinate here, and then just a connection between the two of them. If I double click on one of those coordinates, I can move it and create a shape. I can expand the way that the math is happening on this specific shape. And it's going to say shape expanded when you do that. So once you expand your shape, that allows you to move these anchor points into setups that are a little bit more accurate to the shape that you're trying to portray. Remember, this started out as a rounded triangle, but since I'm using the direct selection tool, I can adjust by clicking on the little squares. Make sure that you're clicking on the squares. I can adjust that path and still have it be a polygon that will fill expectedly, right? So if I had some type of fill, it's going to stay within the lines because this is still a closed polygon. What you can also do, now I have this funky looking shape right here because it fills in the this kind of brown space in between the front feathers and the wing feathers, right? So what you can also do, instead of making, let me turn my crosshairs off real quick. Instead of trying to guess what color this roughage is right in here, I can select this new shape that I've created, this new triangle in quotes, and then I can press the I key to activate my eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool works in a really cool way because it samples not only like the fill color off of an image, like your reference, it will also sample the properties of other shapes that you eyedrop. So let's start with just the color sample to begin with. If I click right here, it's going to automatically fill in with the color underneath and make my, match it as best it can with a single color based on the one that you click on. So if I clicked on one of these darker parts, I mean, it's not gonna, let me see. It's all pretty much the same. But if I click over here on the orange, it's gonna turn that kind of creamsicle orange color instead. So with your shape selected with the selection tool, let's do the big bird triangle, for example. If you press I on your keyboard, that keeps the shape selected and allows you to sample some colors off of the underneath image. Even if it's set to a template, you can still sample it. Then the other thing the eyedropper tool can do is it will take the properties or the stroke and the fill color, as well as the stroke width. I think I showed you guys this, but I'll show you one more time. It can take the stroke and the fill color of another thing that you sample off of. So let's turn this way up to 10 on the outside edge, double click on these fill box. Red is complementary to green. Okay, and green is the complement to red. So let's go here, there you go. Okay, so we have two very different shapes here, even though they're both triangles. If I click on this shape and then take my eyedropper again, it's going to take the exact same properties of whatever shape I sample off of it. It won't take the same shape. So for example, if I had a, let's do an octagon. And then let me undo back to here and get that octagon back. There's our octagon. If I sample this triangle, it doesn't turn it into a triangle. It just takes the properties from that triangle based off the eyedropper tool. And with these two things in mind, with the direct selection tool, you can click and drag. Welcome back. Thank you. With the direct selection tool, you can influence how a shape is curved, and you can double click on any anchor point to adjust the kind of mathematical proportions of that shape to make it fit a little bit more into your organic design. So, but I want you to be forewarned before you go too deep into trying to exactly replicate your animal here. A mix of geometric shapes, the mathematical ones, and organic shapes is a good mix. It does not have to be all one or all the other. There's a nice amount of compromise that you can use to create contrast and make a more visually interesting animal creation. So that's all I have to show you for now. When you guys are back on Thursday, we'll get into a little bit more of the Pathfinder tools, some more advanced tool pieces for this assignment. But think about trying the direct selection tool and the eyedropper tool to start putting some color into your creature thus far. Sound good? Okay, so that leaves us with about 45 minutes to work on these. I'll be wandering, helping you guys individually. But you're good to go. Thank you guys for listening.